Good morning.
Good morning.
So, as Jerry was lying on his deathbed, approaching his last moments, he said, "Everybody leave the room, except Mandy, my wife. I need to talk with you." So everybody left. He said, "Mandy, I'm dying, but there's something I have to tell you before I die." She said, No, it's okay. Save your strength, save your energy, just be calm. He said, No, I have to confess something. She said, "Whatever it is, it's in the past. Just breathe, save your strength." He said, "No, Mandy, I have to tell you, I had an affair." And she said, "I know. Why do you think I poisoned you?" You know, you don't usually get to tell that one in a church, but I don't know. It kind of seemed like a good match for today's sermon. I'm doing different opening words today. This is my first time wearing reading glasses in a church. This is a new thing for me. Which is fantastic, because suddenly just everything is so much bigger. Suddenly all of the words on the page got so much bigger when I started, and it only cost me $1.25. Yeah, right. Some things will never change. Some things will always be the same. The voice of forest water in the night, a woman's laughter in the dark, the clean, hard rattle of raked gravel, the cricketing stitch of midday in hot meadows, the delicate web of children's voices in bright air. These things will never change. The glitter of sunlight on roughened water, the glory of the stars, the innocence of morning, the smell of the sea in harbors. These things will always be the same. The feathery blur and smoky buddings of young boughs, and something there that comes and goes and never can be captured, the thorn of spring, the sharp and tongueless cry. These things will never change. The leaf, the blade, the flower, the wind that cries and sleeps and wakes again, the trees whose stiff arms clash and tremble in the dark, and the dust of lovers long since buried in the earth. All things belonging to the earth will never change. We'll find out how that poem ends at the end of the service. For now, please join me for the words of the chalice lighting that are printed in your leaflet. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. Now please stand if you're able for hymn 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
every Sunday morning we take a very special time out of our service to share our common joys and sorrows that we might individually have. And I would invite you first to spend a few moments contemplating whether or not you have something you'd like to share with us this morning. And now, if someone has decided that they have something they wish to share, please come forward.
Okay. I have the best news. Those of you that have been following my mother's saga and myself, at any rate, we found her an apartment, a senior living apartment in Wheatfield, town in Niagara, which is only 15 minutes from my house near the old Summit Mall. So I am just, these waiting lists for a year to 2 years, and somehow the universe opened up for us, so very grateful.
I'd like to light a candle for two of our members that are not here, and I'm missing them very much. And one of them is Erica. I don't know if she's back yet, Bill. No, she's not. Okay, okay. She's been in Greece trying to help her daughter settle some family affairs, and as most of you know, Erica provides a great deal of our leadership in our church and helps us continue to move forward. So I'd like to light a candle in the hopes that that will soon be resolved in a very positive way for Erica's daughter, Alexandra. And I'd like to light a candle for Joan Davis, who is also missing from our community because of a knee replacement surgery that has gone awry because her femur was broken and her nerves were damaged. And so it's a tough recovery. So I'd just like to say that we're such a small community, and it's sad when we can't all be together.
Trying to make sure I got the right camera up. Just a couple of quick notes. My Patty is doing better. She's been out now for, I guess, about 3 weeks. And she had what we determined to be RSV. And but she's coughing less, doing better. And so I expect maybe we'll see her maybe as early as next week, I hope. And the other thing, and I think this will please a lot of folks, Joan has a maintenance guy that she referred to us. His name's Dale, real nice guy. And he came in, he was working at the church this week, and he fixed a number of things. But the one that you'll really appreciate, I mean, this is going to be like a beloved thing, is that he changed the heat diversion in the basement so that now the bathrooms are warm on cold days, so that this will make Dale an instant hero with everybody. Thank you. I'll even light a candle for that one.
Anyone else this morning? Then let's move on to collection of an offertory. No, we're going to take up an offertory. No. We're going to do something.
Is that? That's okay. Check, 1, 2. Is that one on? Good, okay. I like this. I'm going to start using this one from now on. Okay. So there are numerous stories about how, in the beginning, this spirit got his nose flattened. It's always a contest with the good spirit of creation about authority over the newly created world. But sometimes the challenger is identified as a whirlwind, or as the creator's competitive twin brother, or an obnoxiously proud human being. One version of the story goes like this. At last, one day, the great work of creation was nearly completed, and the good spirit began a tour of inspection, walking westward around the earth. Far to the west, on the rocky rim of the world, he met his brother, the evil spirit, who now was in the form of a giant. The Creator asked the stranger, as he had asked all others, what he was doing. Well, said the giant, I am looking over my creation. But it is my creation, said the good spirit. And finally, they agreed to settle the dispute by a contest of magical power. Each one would try to make the rocky mountain move. The good spirit said, you try first. So the giant took a whole hickory tree as his cane and rubbed a snapping turtle across it. The mountains trembled, but moved only a little way. Then the good spirit said, now it's my turn. He made the giant turn around with his back to the mountains, and while the giant's back was turned, he moved the mountains up close to him. Now turn around, he said. The giant turned and bashed his nose against the side of the mountain. The giant said, you are the creator. I submit and I ask only to be allowed to live. The good spirit granted the request on condition that he would help the people and take them as his grandchildren. So the bargain was made. If the people would wear masks representing the giant and would burn tobacco for him and give him a little corn mush, he would give them power through the masks to handle hot coals without being burned, to withstand the cold without shivering, and to drive away disease, witches, and high winds. Now in the story, the challenger's pride is punished, but he does not need to be obliterated. It ends with rehabilitation. The one who attempted to claim all of the credit for creation wants to be needed and acknowledged. And so he becomes necessary on the condition that he agree to be helpful. In the Iroquois midwinter ceremony, the third and fourth days involve dances by numerous medicine societies named after animals like the bear, otter, and fish, and the False Face Society. These dancers wear large wooden masks, often with comically or frightfully distorted facial features. A false face mask is very sacred, for it can channel spiritual energy. But it is not an idol or magical talisman. A member of the Cayuga tribe wrote, "It is not the object that we worship, but the unseen power behind it." The false face represents the same power as the medicines that grow on the earth. Some of this energy is derived from the trees from which the masks are carved. The belief is that healing spirits can be born into certain forest trees, and these spirits then need human assistance to release them from a trunk so that they can enter the village and interact with the human community. The making of a mask is a highly specialized sacred craft, which begins with identifying a tree that contains this energy, an energy that can correspond with the specific type of tree in which it grows, like a maple, a white pine, or a poplar. When the tree has been found, a mask maker will offer tobacco smoke with prayer and song to discern the identity of the specific spirit within. Then the spirit's face is carved into the living trunk, which continues to receive smoke and song until finally the mask is ready to be removed from the tree and worn by a dancer who can carry this specific spirit energy to the people. A Quaker witnessed a false-faced dancer among the Allegheny Senecas in 1798. He describes two men, quote, "covered with bear skins and a bag of ashes tied around their middle, behind them with a hole to allow ashes to fly around as they move. Their faces are carved with a large painted mask having a high mane on the crown made of long coarse hair standing almost erect and with large eyes encircled with flame-colored rings. The mouth is open and shows their own teeth with which they grin in a terrific manner, and their hands are blackened so as to leave marks on every person they lay them on. They would carry turtle shell rattles and rub up and down on longhouse doorposts, and playfully chase people around, leaving ashen handprints on those that they could catch. False-faced dancers are also known to handle hot coals without experiencing pain, a sign that an impervious supernatural spirit can enter a human body. Some of the twisted masks are caricatures of desires that can turn a person into a monster. The crooked nose mask, for example, is a reminder of how pride can twist someone into something horrific. A Cayuga elder writes, "The mask makes the person wearing it impersonal, so that when we see the mask in the ceremony, we think only of the lesson that the mask represents." The Midwinter Festival can feature playful variations on masked visitations. A visitor in 1816 observed two men in bear costumes invading longhouses, which the inhabitants playfully fled, and then after making some mischief, these bears were chased away. Another visitor in the mid-1800s saw children and some adults wearing comically shabby clothes and crude wooden masks, their hands smeared with grease and soot, running around with baskets, shouting, "Give, give." And they would receive small gifts of food or tobacco, and those who were too stingy to share might find themselves patted on the back and smeared with grease. This tradition could be compared with a modern trick-or-treat. In recent years, there has been a heated controversy over whether carved wooden false-face masks should be displayed as art in museums. In Haudenosaunee belief, imprisoning a medicine spirit within a glass case, alienating it from human contact and ritual, can cause the helpful energy of the mask to turn harmful. Over the last 30 years, many masks have been removed from public display and restored to indigenous people. Iroquois elder Adelphina Logan said, "Many non-Indians have regarded the masks with curiosity and misunderstanding. They've called the masks grotesque, magical. But to my people, they are symbols, reminders of lessons important to the individual's life circle. The most frequently seen mask in books and museums is the one that the non-Indian calls the crooked face. And to us," she writes, "this mask represents the greed and conceit, the selfishness and unreliability in humanity, and reminds us to discipline these qualities within ourselves." Yesterday, in a hardware store parking lot, I saw something wonderful. A familiar face smiling at me, wisely and warmly, lying in the gutter. My old friend Ben, Benjamin Franklin, printed on a $100 bill. But it was obviously fake, printed on plain white paper, so I didn't pick it up. But then I did anyway, because I knew that the chemicals in my brain would gradually readjust the mental image throughout the day until it really started to look real, and then it would just scratch at my brain for the rest of the day until I became certain that I had left $100 on the curb. So I picked it up, unfolded it, and flipped it, and printed on the back were the words, "Make America Great Again." And I thought, so this is the plan? Give someone a momentary glimmer of hope that some little thing might get a little bit better for one person and then disappoint them? Fooled you. It sounds about right. I dropped the worthless piece of paper, a phony scrap pretending to be a false promise from the US Treasury, a promise of peace, happiness, and security. And I rubbed it into the cold, wet pavement with my boot until it disintegrated so that it couldn't trick anyone else. This was my Christmas gift to the next shopper in that parking lot. They wouldn't get tricked by this thing. But thinking about it further, a tree had been cut so that Benjamin Franklin could become a false face. And I know it wasn't done as a sacred Iroquois message, but nonetheless, it reminded me of that spirit of pride and greed in the Iroquois creation story. He plays tricks on people, but in indigenous belief, this spirit can also be inadvertently helpful. In spite of himself, somehow he has a part to play in moving the story forward. I grew up around a Christian worldview where we're always just a Sunday or two away from world salvation or world destruction. A savior to fix everything, or a devil to damn us all. That's a very Christian way of looking at the world. But in the Iroquois cosmology, sometimes a prank is just a prank. Sometimes a year is just a year. Good and bad push and pull and push and pull, and the earth endures. Thank you. Please stand if you are able for hymn 131, Love Will Guide Us. No, it's not. Okay, now it is. But we will, in 2 weeks, continue with our look at Midwestern Native American religious customs. I'm going to finish the story I started earlier. And she said, "Of course I know. Why do you think I poisoned you?" And he said, "Well, could I have a last request?" She said, "Of course, anything." He said, "Well, I can smell that my favorite cookies are baking. Would you please bring me one last cookie before I go?" And she said, "No, those are for the funeral." All right. I began this service with a poem, with the beginning of a poem, "Some Things Will Never Change" by Thomas Wolfe. We're going to continue with that. All things proceeding from the earth to seasons, all things that lapse and change and come again upon the earth, these come up from the earth that never changes. They go back into the earth that lasts forever. Only the earth endures, but it endures forever. The tarantula, the adder, and the asp will also never change. Pain and death will always be the same. But under the pavements, trembling like a pulse, under the buildings, trembling like a cry, under the waste of time, under the hoof of the beast, above the broken bones of cities, there will be something growing like a flower, something bursting from the earth again, forever deathless, faithful, coming into life again, like April. Please join me for the words of extinguishing the chalice, which are printed in your leaflet. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And I would like to wish you all a happy New Year and a happy Bills game this afternoon, if you're watching.
So if you could turn to page 1 in your hymnals. This is Teresa, one of Teresa's favorite songs, and one of mine too. Maybe you could do the first and the third verse. Give yourselves a round of applause.